Hello, my name is Cabrera. I am the LGBTQ plus National Portfolio Ambassador for Bacardi, and I have a wonderful group of individuals with me this morning, and we're actually going to be speaking on the LGBTQ plus community around the world. A lot of the seminars that I've done thus far have really been internally for just the United States, and so we've really come to understand what's going on in our own country. But I think it's always important to know what's going on across the pond, and to get the perspectives of the people who live there every day. And so it's my great honor and my great pleasure to bring such these three ladies together to we're going to jump in a conversation, and we're going to talk about what it means to be LGBTQ plus in their respective cities and countries, and really get their stories and really just get another viewpoint other than what we always get, which I always say over and over again, is just within the United States. And so I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we're just going to jump right into the conversation. So Stephanie.
Hello everyone, bonjour. I'm Stephanie Simbo. I'm the global brand manager for Plantation Rum. My pronouns are she and her, but if you'd like also to say they and them, I'm comfortable with it. I identify as queer. I'm really proud of it. Yeah, thank you so much, Chris, for welcoming me today.
Of course, it's always a pleasure to work with you and have you on anytime I get to chat with you. I always jump at the opportunity. And I also, my pronouns are they and them. I'm a proud non-binary Latinx human, and I am based in New York City. Nicole?
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Faz. I come from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I'm a super proud queer woman. My pronouns are she and her, but I am a human being, and you may call me as whatever you want. But yeah, I am right now. I am one of the official bartenders for the social media in Bacardi in Puerto Rico. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much, Chris, for inviting me.
Of course. And last but not least, Malayka.
So hello everyone, my name is Malayka Al-Abdullah, and I am the bar manager for London Cocktail Club in Shoreditch. I am a proud and shameless bisexual, and and I'm just sincerely, my pronouns are she and her as well. I don't mind they or them either, and I'm very proud to be here today. This is genuinely exciting. Yay!
Yay!
And obviously, unsurprisingly, I'm from London because London Cocktail Club. Yeah, so hello from London.
Well, thank you so much, ladies, for being here. I'm really excited to kind of jump into this conversation and really keep the conversation going. Tales of the Cocktail just ended, and there was a lot of firsts for Tales of the Cocktail. The first all-black panel, the first Latinx panel. I moderated, my second kind of ongoing queer panel. So this is always just a continuation of the conversations had before. I think we need to keep them fresh. We need to keep the perspectives fresh. We need to invite different perspectives in to really understand that our rainbow has many different spectrums to it. And I'm non-binary. There's two. We have two queer women and a proud bisexual. And so I feel it's really it's important to bring these perspectives together. And so I kind of want to just ask you all, here in the States, with George Floyd and when George Floyd was killed, and we had this resurgence of these social movements, we began to see the changes within our own industry, the bar industry, but it hasn't been with its frustrations on our parts, kind of fighting the fight. It is emotionally taxing to do this and to talk about this and to do this work. And so I'm just curious to see how it's been in the cities that you live in around the world. Stephanie, I'll start with you.
With everything that happened in the US and the Black Lives Matter movement, first of all, I love the fact that people realized that it wasn't just a US thing. because it crossed the pond and it went to the UK, it went to France. Like, you had march all over the world. And that was the first time that something that happened in a country that wasn't necessarily mine highlighted issues that were also issues that we can find in France. So I was happy, not really happy about what happened, but happy that people started to understand that it wasn't just a US problem. But it's been hard because in France, we don't really have those discussions. It's not that racism doesn't exist. People acknowledge that racism exists, but we do not talk about it. You know what I mean? Like the Republic.
About it? Yeah, is it kind of
yeah, the Republic. It's all about liberty, equality, fraternity. We fought, we killed our king for everyone to be equal in France. Therefore, we made it. And people are like, yeah, we didn't really quite make it. But,
yeah, as long as you're white and French, but not black and French, right?
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
Exactly. Like in France, we, as a black person, you will be celebrated if you're good in sports. You will be celebrated if you're really good at school, because they love that story of, you know, overcoming your challenge and stuff. But if you are actually a black person that grew up in a middle class family with no really big issues, like, you know, with a functional family and that you're average, they're like, oh, yeah, you must come from, you know, the islands or something, and you've been French adopted. You know what I mean? Like, you're not really French.
You're not 100% French. They don't see you as that way. You know,
yes.
It's crazy that you say that, and I'm gonna definitely jump to you next, Malayka. But you know, the couple of people that I do know that I work with. You know, my colleagues are, one's a cisgender Frenchman and the other one's a cisgender Englishman. And they are very baffled by American racism and homophobia, because the Englishmen and the Frenchmen are like, this doesn't happen in our country, you know.
Oh, we have polite racism, really polite.
It's
racism.
Subtle, correct?
Subtle. Yeah.
Subtle. It's there, but it's subtle. It's very polite racism. It's not like ours where we're waving flags and burning crosses and, you know, the Confederate and guns and, you know, just showing up in like craziness. You know, it's very polite. It's very institutionalized.
It's really polite. It's sentences like, oh, for a black woman, you're really beautiful, or it's things like, oh, but you speak really well French. Where are you from, really? Like, I mean, you know, really. It's just, yeah.
And I mean, you know, I can only, I mean, no, well, I'm from here. So what do you mean? I'm from down the street.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you trying to ask? I mean, Malayka, I would like you to kind of, you know, I know I've spoken to, you know, a lot of people in the UK about trying to bring awareness to, you know, the POC LGBTQ plus community. And I was told, which kind of, I was flabbergasted because I speak a lot on gender neutral restrooms and the need for them, especially for people like me. You know, in a few months, I'm going to get top surgery. And so, you know, I'm finally going to look the way I've always felt. I've always seen myself, and like, I'm finally going to get to look how I feel, which is amazing. But at the same time, you know, I have been privileged enough, or I have actually done this purposely, to live in cities like San Francisco and New York, where I would say roughly about 75 to 80% of all restrooms here are gender neutral, which is safe for me. And, you know, I was doing some research, and, you know, we were talking about it a little too, Malayka, how it's just, that is not the norm in, you know, in the UK, and really kind of trying to, like, what are, as, you know, what are some of the, like, challenges specifically, I think, you know, you face and the community faces in the UK?
Well, for the most part, I think what Stephanie said is very much inclusive of what happens here in London, because you still get that subtle racism like everywhere. Like this is why, to be honest, I kind of don't really tend to do, like, I will never live long term outside of London, because every time I leave London for long periods, I remember why I come back. So it's kind of mostly like, especially my best friend is from Hampshire. And her family, absolutely lovely, amazing, and accept me for what they are. And her family is basically my adopted family. But you still get these like subtle bits of ignorance and misunderstanding, which I'm very forgiving of, because I understand when you have not been around that environment, and you've not had that in your family, it's kind of easy to ignore it and overlook it. So I'm kind of fairly forgiving and understanding in that sense. We still have a lot of work to do. There is like gender neutral toilets. It's something that I would genuinely like, because I think, to be honest, there's not really a whole lot of reason for it. You can just stick on here, okay, on the door, there's 2 sit downs and a urinal here. In here, there are 5 sit downs, and then anyone can just use the toilet. So you just need to remove the signs. And it's something that I'd even like to see my company do going forward. But within all honesty, I don't really know how London or England is going to necessarily cope with that at the moment, because I'm not entirely sure that, especially with some people, they're entirely ready for that, or that have that level of maturity.
Sure. Well, what do you think about, like, how do you think the education is within the bar industry? You know,
can do better. Can definitely do better.
For like LGBTQ and education about, you know, POC and BIPOC. Yeah. You know, where is the education level, you know, that is it aware that you all need more of it? Is there a calling for it within the industry there, you know?
Oh, 100%, definitely. I think we always have to be looking forward, always. And it's something that one of the things that I do outside of work is I'm one of the admins for a group called Cocktail QT, which is for a group of queer and trans people who work within the cocktail and spirit industry here, mostly based in London, but it can extend outside. And I've been speaking to some of my fellow admins here about the possibility of trying to do that within my company. And one of the people who I wanted to do it with, one of my other fellow admins, unfortunately then left the company. So I'm kind of like, if I want to do this going forward, I'm left to do it on my own. But it just means it's going to end up taking longer. But it is something that I think that is very important. I think the idea, Hannah Lanfear's wife, it does this sort of training, and it's something that I want to speak to her about trying to get that within my company. I think it's something that a lot of other companies should do going forward, because I know that we've had, coming just from a POC kind of point of view, that's a kind of different kind of thing altogether. But when we're talking about things like trans and non-binary, I think there are definitely like some perspectives that I've heard from people in the industry as a whole that are not, to put it nicely, to put it tactfully, not very open-minded, not very aware. Like, I think a lot of people don't realise that it's not okay to ask trans people what genitals they have. Because in my opinion, that is just so wrong. It's so wrong. You can't do that. Yeah. But yet again, being forgiving, being understanding, we have to learn, we have to move forward. Yeah, I forgive them. They don't know better. So how about we have this training? Let's have these conversations.
And then move forward.
Yeah. The thing is, like, it's, Malayka, you know, I understand that we need to be forgiving, we need to be understanding and stuff, but sometimes I'm like, fuck that. I'm like, we are in 2020, almost 2021. People have access to information. We might not have a lot of representation, but representation exists. You know, it's not like people don't know about transgender or, you know, they don't know about intersectionality. Like, those words exist, those information exists. If we did the work, why can't they?
Like, people stay in their own lane, that's why. Because people care more about their McDonald's or their new clothes or fashion than they do care about somebody else's validation or need for existence, or to be seen as a valid person within that. People, let's be honest, people are thoughtless. They are. People think about themselves.
And that's the thing. I think it is, and I'm going to bring you into this, Nicole, because I want to definitely, you know, I'll get your perspective. You know, I think it is very, And I think we forget this because all of us here, you know, in this group right now are about changing things and doing more to make things easier, not only for ourselves, but the next generation. The next generation of queer people that come in, they won't have to answer these questions. They won't have to go through these headaches that, you know, we're setting them up. But I have found, you know, with becoming an activist, especially in these last 6 months during the pandemic, it has been made very painfully obvious to me that there are a lot of people, most people, that do not see outside that things that directly affect them, you know, that directly affect who they are, you know. And it even happened with the word Latinx. I was just on a panel for appropriation versus appreciation for Latinx, and I had to explain to my own community, the Latin community, why Latinx is a necessary word, why we created it for the LGBTQ, non-binary, transgender, gender non-conforming folks who don't go by Latina or Latino. You know, we need that word to feel inclusive. And so this is, Nicole, you know, you're from Puerto Rico, you're Boricua, you know, a proud Boricua, and, you know, I want to get, you know, we come from the same Latinx culture. And so we, you know, you understand to a point this old way of thinking, this, you know, old way of thinking, this machismo way of thinking.
Yes.
And so to try to find our place in it as queer people, you know, what do you, you know, living in Puerto Rico right now during the pandemic as a queer person before, I mean, just in general, what are your feelings? What are your thoughts?
Well, following that thought that, you know, we were talking about all of this ignorance and all of this accessibility to information, the thing about it is that people are very afraid of what they don't understand, and they just pick what they want to learn. They do not want to know more information about, for example, the trans community or the queer community. And, you know, these people are really actually afraid of it because, you know, here in Puerto Rico last year we had the situation of Alexa, which is a transgender woman that lived on the streets. And, you know, she used to live on the streets for a long time. She had people that helped her because her family abandoned her. And somebody killed her last year just because he was afraid. This person was afraid and did not understand. And it was a complete, you know, it was completely hateful. It was just because they didn't understand. So it's, you know, it's complicated. Me as a Puerto Rican, Puerto Rico is a paradise. Puerto Rico is beautiful and everything. But we live in this political confusion because we are a community, we are a territory of the United States. But even though we are American citizens and we carry the US passport, we have no rights to vote for the president. Besides that, a lot of other things. Our taxes are the highest taxes on the United States because most of our food is imported. Even the things that we make here in Puerto Rico, for example, let me put an example, Bacardi gets taxed on Florida and then comes back to the island. So it's even, you know, the price is even higher for us. And these are things that, you know, that are very confusing for our pride as, you know, as Latinx. But boy, are we proud. A good thing about our community is that we are, you know, we are very, very proud of being Latinos. We are proud of being, you know, of living in an island and living in this beautiful paradise. Basically, our economy is you know, it's based on tourism. So we actually need people to come into Puerto Rico. So, you know, we are people that, you know, we want you here. So our LGBTQ plus community is a beautiful community, but it's kind of sad that I think it has been a little bit diminished in the last 5 years. I mean, diminished like our safe havens. For example, the nightlife for our LGBT community in Puerto Rico has been almost completely diminished. Sorry, translation. Sometimes
we got you.
Because, you know, my first language is Spanish and not English. So sometimes it takes a little bit. You know, San Juan is full of queer people, but we definitely need more safe havens. The last 5 years, like I said, you know, they have been very diminished, and it's an education thing. It's even though, like Stephanie said, the information is there, people, sometimes you have to push them, you know, sometimes you have to push a little bit more this kind of information. The media, the news, they just, you know, they just want to talk about all of this all of this rage and you know, and I got lost in translation.
It's in Spanish.
Yes, in Spanish. You're doing it
in Spanish.
I wrote everything in Spanish, and you're like, oh wait, just say it in Spanish. I'll figure it out and put caption later.
Sí. You know, esta agresividad, this it's very aggressive. It's like, you know, you see the news, and they're just, instead of trying to give this message of peace, a message of unity, a message of trying to unite people, of bringing together people, is a message of racism. There's a message of, you know, of a lot of hostility. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the main problems, you know, in the community. Do you see? Sorry, yes.
Yeah, do you see within the industry, you know, within Puerto Rico, because we spoke about this at the Latinx panel I did about being bilingual, you know, especially, you know, how, you know, there's so many Latin and Latinx people in our industry, you know, that we're actually the backbone of the industry, you know, especially with our culture and tequila and mezcal and this ownership from people that are guests within our community. And so, you know, with you know, being Latinx and Spanish being your first language and being queer, you know, I think within the industry itself, you know, I know you made it to the finals of Bacardi Legacy, which was amazing. And, you know, for you, you know, I guess my question really is coming, you know, to where you are in your career, has been, you know, Spanish being your first language and being queer, have those almost to a point held you back from what you really think you could be doing right now? Like, is it something that has not, you know, not been something that you've had to jump through hurdles for?
Well, sometimes I think that it used to hold me back for some time. Sometimes it's difficult. I look in my community, I look like a white woman. You know, I'm light skinned and I dye my hair. So it's, sometimes people think that I am in that privileged side, but it's actually, you know, it's not actually like that, because, for example, in San Juan, I get a lot of tourists, and most of the people that sit at my bar are tourists, and people, you know, listen to me talking in English, and they ask, are you Puerto Rican? Are you really from here? Like, are you sure you weren't born and raised in the US? And, you know, they start asking all of these things. And some people look at it as some kind of privilege, but, you know, actually me being different, having a shaved side, having a lot of tattoos, being queer, it has actually affected me in some of the jobs. I would love to say no, but I have to say yes. I think it has hold me back, and not hold me back because I feel like I am I have been held back. I feel like it holds me back because, again, people are afraid of what they don't understand, and they look at me and I think that, you know, I'm rough or I'm crazy. And some people ask me like, are you like a punk, or are you like a, I don't know, are you like in a gang? And I'm like, no, I am.
You're like, it's a style. This is called style. It's called fashion. This is a fashion choice.
and you know, it's funny, but in a way, yes, in a way, you know, being Latina and being queer is a challenge, but I like a challenge. You know, I don't think that's something that,
Nicole,
you know,
try being Latina, queer, and Black. I do not exist at all.
I was waiting until you had finished so I can jump in on this. I'm waiting until you
do not exist at all. Like, even my own family.
honey, I can go a little bit further, because me and another queer lady friend were talking about this. What does society not like? Society doesn't like women. Society doesn't like queers. Society doesn't like people of color, especially the darker you are, the more invisible you are. And they don't like disabled people. Now, my friend who is gay, disabled, female, and Black, she's like, but like man, I mean, I have the same things going on, only I'm not as dark. So maybe I might have a privilege of being lighter skinned, but I am still all the rest of those. So am I really even a person? You know?
Yeah.
But that's the weird thing, is that you're not even inside your own community, because with like I don't expressly push forward the fact that I'm also part of the Latinx community, because the thing is, like, I grew up with people that look like me, like my own mother or my own grandmother saying, oh, tienes pelo malo, like your hair is not good, or like, you need to date white people because tienes que arreglar la raza.
Like, what is this? I love it. I love it. This is making me so happy. And this is the thing also, you know, I'm going to get into another point, but I also want Malayka, we talk about this, and the reason I brought Malayka onto this conversation is because it's LGBTQIA. LGBTQ plus is socially acceptable for those listening. You know, to kind of shorten it, we do accept that term as well. But what do you think about LGBT?
B does not stand for bacon.
The bisexual is often a part of our community that is overlooked. You know, that is, you know, for a long time, you know, it's even the transgender. I would say the bisexual and transgender part of that acronym
with the black sheep
is the black sheep, and there's really no room for it. And so I think you know, it's important for me to, you know, when I speak, you know, on forums such as this, to represent our entire rainbow and realize that there are a lot of spectrums to us. And so, you know, I think, Malayka, for you being bisexual and being super open about that, I think there is a lot of stigma around that word and around, you know, people who claim it. You know, as being wishy-washy, as like not knowing who they are, you know, as you know, just kind of falling into whatever group they fall into and being able to like adapt. And so I think before I ask my next question, can you just kind of touch base real quick on what bisexual means to you, and the fact that you're just so proud of it? Can you just I'd love to hear.
Absolutely. So what being bisexual means to me, because I mean, even kind of growing up, I didn't know what it was. I think I can understand where people come from this, because even growing up, I didn't think bisexuality was a real thing. I thought people were either gay or straight. So there was a lot of confusion and internalized biphobia in myself growing up, which really kind of sucked. But, you know, when I kind of came to peace with it, and the older I get, the queerer and more out and prouder I am. But what bisexual means to me is the fact that I have the ability to be attracted to someone regardless of gender. For me, it's not just male and female. I am very much attracted to people. I'm attracted to trans, I'm attracted to non-binary. I still count myself as a bisexual. Part of the reason why I do this is partially a generation thing. The term pan is new. Mm-hmm. I would consider myself to be pan as well, but that's not really my generation. So where do we look for the term bisexual? Came from white men in coats. When back in the days when they considered there to be only two genders, male and female, bisexual came from the term because, oh, we were attracted to both men and women, because they thought they were no other genders. Right, now the future going forward, people kind of looked at bisexuality and bisexuality not being portrayed very well on the media, let's be honest, because always the bad people are usually bisexuals, and the evil villains are always bisexuals, aren't they? Bisexuals, people of color in wheelchairs, so you have to go around and punch them, who go around sleeping with everyone. So, you know, obviously they're putting it on to put on their boyfriend, to impress their boyfriend, you know. So representation has not been great. So the people, the next generation going forward, including my younger sister, has identified as pan because they think that bisexuals only want men and women. That's not true. It's really not true. I stand by because it's my generation, my age. I'm in my late 30s now, and that seems appropriate to me, but I do use pan as well. Now I'm fed up of talking about it. Thank you. Let's move on.
No, thank you. You know, and that kind of, you know, you kind of just very naturally led me to, like, you know, what I want to chat with, you know, you wonderful ladies about is, I think it is a generational thing. You know, I always say this, and I know Stephanie, you heard me say it before. I came out 25 years ago in Texas in the mid 90s. Okay. I know I'm 42. I'm older than I look, but it is what it is. Yeah. So, you know, when I came out, there was just LGBT, and I was in a very conservative town in Texas. And so I had to figure out who I was all by myself. Like, I didn't have this information that we have. I didn't have all, you know, internet, you know, we didn't have this age of information with documentaries and documents and articles and movies and, you know, YouTube and all these things to kind of figure out, well, who am I? You know, and so the closest, you know, I wasn't trans because I knew I didn't want to transition. You know, I didn't want to become, you know, someone else, so to speak, like into the you know, the gender that I felt I related to the most. But, you know, I wasn't bisexual because I knew I was only attracted to, you know, women. And so for me, it was, and when I say women with an X, you know, women, you know, all women. And I think that's important to say, all women. But I think, you know, I picked lesbian because it felt the most, I could relate to that the most. And it wasn't until my seminar from, you know, 2 years ago that I was like, I'm non-binary. And like, when you say it's a generational thing, pansexual is very new. You know, pansexual kind of, the term pansexual is someone who likes, you know, cisgender men and women, but also non-binary, gender non-conforming, and transgender people. So they really kind of, you know, just really, it's all encompassing what pansexual means. So bisexual is, yes, a very generational thing. But yeah, I want to kind of ask you all, I think there's very little room for error when you're queer and POC. We don't get to make the same mistakes that our cisgender straight white counterparts get to make. We don't get we have to be on our game all the time. There's no room for error for what we do professionally or emotionally. Like, we cannot have a mental breakdown publicly. People remember that always. We can't just take time off.
I have. It never worked out well.
Yeah. You know, but you know, we can't go to, you know, we can't go to our bosses and ask for the same thing that our gender straight white counterparts ask for. We are held to a different standard. We are playing by a different rule book, by a different playbook. You know, so there is just no room for error in anything we do. We have to be 100% on our game all the time. And maybe I'm wrong. I would like to get each of your opinions on this. I'll start with you, Steph.
And I'm just gonna, on that question, I realized I wasn't at the same level of a white person when it comes to coming out. So as a daughter of first wave immigrants, it was, a lot of people were like, oh, tell me the story of your coming out. Like, how did you come out to your family and stuff? And I said, I didn't. And a lot of people were like, but why? Like, you should, etc. And I'm like, my white friends didn't understand that coming out for an immigrant, you have that extra layer that has so much more pressure, because My parents left everything in their country to come to France to give us a better life. I've seen my mom and my dad work like dogs to allow us to have a better education, to have food on the table and everything. And you grew up wanted to pay back for everything that they did. Okay, so arriving in France and growing up with the education that I have and the exposure that I have, and realizing that my sexuality wasn't the norm, it put a lot of distress, because I was like, how can I do that to them? After everything they've been through, how can I do that to them? Why would I add something that is mine, my sexuality, and add on to everything that they had already, and make their life miserable when it's already difficult to have a good relationship with them? I'm like, my mom is 82 years old. She's not gonna stay that long. I'm like, why would I come out if not coming out actually allows us to have, already settled with like the epigenetic trauma that we have and everything? Why would I have that coming out? But yet my white friends were like, you need to come out, you need to do this. And I'm like, but why? At the end of the day, my mom doesn't ask me a question about my sexuality. I don't ask her a question. She saw some of my partners, but she didn't really ask questions. She didn't really like, oh, what's going on? It's not something that we do. I don't know if it's something that you guys do in your community, but like, I know that like in my community, at least, we don't really talk about those things. Not that we don't want to deal with it, but more than we have too much shit to deal with already.
Well, can I ask, Stephanie, where did your parents come from? Where did they immigrate from?
So my mom is Haitian and Cuban, and my dad is from Central African Republic.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on to you, Malayka, and then of course Nicole. But I think saying that and please, Nicole, you can speak to this as well. With being Latinx, the same thing. My parents know I'm non-binary. They don't really understand what that means. They struggle with it, and so I've allowed them. And I know a lot of my friends would be like, "How can you stand up and fight for our community when you?" I still let my parents call me Mija, because they've called, and my dad, I can see my dad trying to call me Chris, but he's in his mid 60s, and he loves me and respects me for who I am. He doesn't understand it. And he comes from a very different culture. He's from Jalisco, from Guanajuato. And so, it is like, I can't sit around the dinner table with my family and talk about like transgender issues or things of that nature. I'm very careful with the things that I do bring up around them, and it's not because I'm not proud of who I am, and it's not because but I think there's just some things with my parents and Malayka too. I mean, I want you to kind of go into what your heritage is as well, and how it is for you. But I think it's really it is cultural. A lot of things are cultural, and they know I'm queer, and they know I'm non-binary, and they love me. And it's been a long journey, because I've been out for 25 years, and it hasn't been an easy one. But we're at a point now where I think they accept it, but we don't talk about it, and that's and you know what? It keeps the peace, and it's enough. It's enough for me, because I have acceptance and love for who I truly am from my chosen family. In an ideal world, would I love my parents to really jump on board with who I am and support me in what I do and be my biggest cheerleaders? Absolutely. But this is the world we live in. Malayka, can you just tell us a little bit about your heritage, where your parents are from, and how it is for you within your family for being queer?
So I wish I had more of a story, actually. So a bit of background about myself. I am massive mongrel. My family is massive mongrels. So my father is Saudi Arabian. My mother is Turkish Cypriot and English. But so my mother never grew up with her family. I never grew up with my Arab side of my family. My mother remarried when I was 3, and she married a Nigerian, and my brothers and sisters are half Nigerian, and I grew up in a half Nigerian household. I don't know if my dad knows I'm bi. I think he probably does. I'm pretty sure he knows it does. My youngest sister came out at 15 when she had a girlfriend. I had 2 gay aunts. 2, you know, a lot of queer women in my family. So I had, honestly, a lot easier time with it. And it probably wouldn't have been the case if I had anything to do with the Arab side of the family. My granddad died recently, and I know for a fact he didn't know that I'm queer, but he didn't have a lot to do with the family either. So I don't really have, unfortunately, a huge story, because it was dismissed. It was like, and when I came out to my mother, the mother was like, that's all right, you're just going to end up with a man anyway. And a lot of people around me said, oh, Malayka, you're saying this for attention. Well, 20 years later, you know, so I don't really have that much of a story, but
I think that is a story, though, Malayka. I think to say that you don't have a story, that is your story. It may not be, you know, not every queer story, and I need to say that to the people watching this. Not every queer story is going to be this dramatic, you know, you've watched too many movies if you think that we have those stories. Some of our stories are just like, yeah, we're queer. Like, you know, you're queer, you're bi. It wasn't really discussed. You did it. You know, that's what it was. You know, and I think it's important to tell your story, because it's not this grandiose, dramatic like story, but it's your story and who you are. So it belongs to you, and you know, particularly.
Yeah, no big drama. No big drama. It's just kind of like came out. My mum's like, yeah, right, okay, fine, get on with it.
I love that. I mean, just go on and get on with it. Okay, well, would you like some tea? I don't know. That's how it went.
No, you're talking about, this is my mother. I make the tea. Are
you ready for some tea now? So I don't know.
Yeah, okay. It's what we do. English. Cup of tea, scone. Cup of tea, scone. There we go.
You know, how about for you? What did you, you know, how was it for you coming out, you know, with your family, and, you know, just fighting for who you are within the industry? You know, how's your journey been?
So, I came out by accident.
All right. Well, like, did you get caught, or did it come out by accident, or was it this?
No. I had a girlfriend. My mother didn't know. She thought we were friends. And we were at this party, and somebody took a picture, and we were making out.
That's a Netflix movie.
Yeah, I would watch that. I would watch that.
This was like 11 years ago. Like, that was like 2009. So, you know, Facebook was a super big thing. And my mother saw the picture on Facebook, and she called me, and she was like, Nicole Alexandra, she was dying. My mother is super religious. She's a Jehovah's Witness. So, you know, it's, yeah, Malayka, that face.
Yeah, you know, I think, it's, you know, we have.
You go like that. Just like.
So right now, she knows, you know, she knows my girlfriend, and, you know, they get along pretty well. But it has taken a long time for my mother to, you know, respect who I am. She doesn't accept it. She always says it. She's like, it's not like I accept it, but, you know, as a Christian, she respects me. But yeah, it was super rocky. Actually, my mother stopped talking to me. My family is from a little town called Lajas in the west side of Puerto Rico. So that's actually like at the other side, the other corner of Puerto Rico. And I was studying art by that time in San Juan. And I lost communication with everybody. Like, all of my family, they all, you know, basically abandoned me. I had no place to stay in. I even, you know, slept some nights on the beach. I slept at friend's house until I could get an apartment. And I was like, for almost 2 years, that didn't talk to my mother after that. And then, you know, we talked, we fought every time we talked. It was, you know, it was very sad for a very long time. We have a much better relationship right now. And like I said, you know, she takes it, you know, she takes it okay. She respects it. My parents were divorced when I was a little kid. So my dad, he knows, and he doesn't really care. He's super open-minded. He's like super tattooed. He's an army guy. So he doesn't, you know, he doesn't mind. But my mom and my grandparents, from the parents of my dad, they are, you know, people that come like from a wealthy family in Puerto Rico, and like, you know, they don't have money anymore, but, you know, they used to. So they think they still have money, and they think that, you know, having a last name and, you know, all of that prideness that comes with it, whatever. So yeah, it was very tough for me for, you know, for some time. And, you know, right now it just makes me happy that, you know, I can talk with my mom. Like Chris said, it's not like I can sit with my family and talk about, you know, LGBTQ issues on the table, but at least, you know, they respect me, and that's important. That's good.
You know, thank you for sharing your stories, all of you. You know, it's, I always ask, you know, about everyone's story when I bring people on, because I think it's important for people watching this within our industry to know that we are fighting a lot of different battles.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not, you know, what we're trying to accomplish within our careers, you know, and move forward, and also pave the way and be trailblazers to help the generation after us. Internally and personally, you know, we're constantly fighting these issues of visibility and acceptance, and to be, you know, to be seen for who we really are, and to take out the fact that we are POC, take out the fact that we are LGBTQ plus, and just see us for the human, for the person that we are, the capable, talented people that we are. And so it's important that when I bring, you know, when I have these kinds of conversations, that the people that I'm having these conversations with, the audience knows who they are. Because I think when you know who someone is and where they come from, you begin to empathize. And I think when you can empathize, I think you can understand. And then when you can understand, then you can change things, you know? So it's always about bringing it back to the personal side of it, and having that personal touch. Because I think right now in our industry, it's about accountability and transparency, you know? And I know, you know, especially for you, Stephanie, we've been on a lot of these panels recently, and, you know, we've been called to action a lot because, you know, we are, you know, some of the faces that the industry sees as leading figures. But I want to bring in people like Malayka and Nicole. And there's so many of us that it just doesn't need to be the handful that you've chosen as an industry to say, well, they know everything, so we're going to put them on blast all the time, ask them to do every panel, ask them for all their opinions, when the LGBTQ plus community within our industry is wider and bigger than most give credit to. And so it's bringing in those different perspectives. And, you know, I think, you know, I kind of want to ask you all, like, individually, you know, especially within your prospective cities, within the cocktail bar industry, within the cities that you live in, what are the kind of some of the immediate changes that you think need to happen to really start dismantling this system that people say it's broken? It's not broken. It was built this way. System isn't broken. System was built this way for a reason, you know? So it's not about fixing a broken system. It's about dismantling a system that was built for the purpose of only a fraction being able to be successful in it. You know, so being queer, being POC, as we all are, you know, what are the immediate things you would like to see, Malayka, in the UK?
Right off the bat, I want to awareness training. It's a little bit more understanding goes a long way. You're right, empathizing, it really, really helps. And I'd like people to turn around and start, it's the position of privilege to turn around and to not question things. It's the fact that people, and it is a position of privilege to not look at these things, to turn around and say, okay, so we don't have enough people of color holding the top positions, the real role models, But I mean, don't get me wrong, not to say there aren't any, there definitely are, but the higher up, why are these people not getting these jobs? People need to be aware about this, people need to think about it, and people really aren't. So how do we get people to talk about these things? And I've always honest, this is one of those conversations that we need to have, because even I'm drawing up straws about how do we do it, because I'm like, right, we need these role models, we need these people to be visual, we need these people to be out there and proud and talk about it and make these uncomfortable conversations. But how do we get these people into these positions? How do we get these people to have these conversations? How do we get people to think about the things that, let's be honest, they don't even really particularly want to think about? So, I mean, awareness training obviously going a wrong way. But now, from what can I do from my perspective? Right, I can only do what is within my power. So what I do within my power is when people come to London Cocktail Club, and I advise anyone who wants to come in the industry, especially even in London, come to this company, because we are the best, right? Don't bother going to any school where they're going to teach you and take your money. No, you come to London Cocktail Club, you work as a barback, you work as a waiter, you work your way up. With dedication and blah, 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 you will make it. And I've seen some great people come from my industry, come through this company, and they do it, including myself. And I'm a living example of that. And I'm going to be here, I'm going to be queer, I'm going to be a person of color, and I'm going to be proud. And anyone who comes underneath me with the dedication and willingness, I will give them whatever training and do whatever I can. I've always done whatever I can for whoever can come pass by me and I always give out information and training for free. You want to know something? Come here, come and talk to me. Come and sit down and I will give it. I always do the best from my point of view, but I can only make impacts so deep. I don't own my own bar company. I just help run a bar, you know? Yeah. So I can only do so much from my perspective. What I can do is maybe shout at the top and say, hey guys, we need to be doing better. But it's kind of, yeah, I'm going to end my part there.
No, thank you. And I think also, you know, with the education, I know you're, you know, I think education is the key. And I think it's also really kind of, I think as a community, what we have to do is, you know, we've always looked out for each other. We've always, you know, helped each other. And through times of, you know, when everyone else has kind of dismissed, you know, our community in a whole, we've always come together to take care of each other. And so I think with the education that comes, you know, and that is also kind of like an incremental part of being able to reach outside, you know, if your city isn't doing it, and if you're not seeing that education there, then reaching out to the resources you have and being like, all right, well, I know Chris Cabrera in New York. Let me see what they're doing. And maybe we can get them on board. Because, you know, I'm not really finding anyone here who can speak to it. And so I think that's it, is also, you know, realizing that you can only do what you can do, but, you know, knowing that our community kind of, we stick by each other and we're here to help each other, you know, to move the needle forward. You know, with Nicole, I think being in Puerto Rico right now, and it's being a part of the United States, you know, being a territory, but not, it's so weird, you know, some people think Puerto Rico is an international view. And I guess, I mean, maybe to some it is, but you're still you have a US passport. So, you know, what would you like, you know, what are the immediate kind of changes you would like to see within the bar industry as far as being like Latinx and queer?
I think that definitely we need to build a lot more of respect, because there's a lot of violence with the Latinx community. I say it because, for example, the bar that I work in, most of our employees are LGBTQ+. Most of them are gay men, and you know that you know the Latino culture is very machista. There's a lot of machismo. There's a lot of like, tú eres un maricón, o este es pato, mira este pato, and there's, you know, inside our own community, in, you know, most of the waiters are in the restaurant I work in, most of the waiters are gay and most of the bartenders are straight men. So there's like this, you know, this violence between the waiters and the bartenders, and obviously me as you know, as a leader in the bar, I don't permit it when I'm there. But a lot of the employees have come to me and they're like, hey, Nikki, one of the guys, you know, they're like always calling me Pato, always calling me like this and that, you know, and it's a difficult situation. But I think that definitely it's, you know, it comes again with the thing of the situation. The ignorance is so daring, you know, and revolutionizing minds, it's not an easy task, you know, when people have this, you know, mente dura, they don't want to, you know, they don't want to break down that system that has been done like this, because, you know, it's a way of controlling things. You know, they don't want to unlearn and to learn all of these things that, you know, unite us. You know, and I think that we have to give example by supporting others the way that we would like to be supported, definitely. It's complicated because, like Malayka was saying, you know, it's keep having these panels, keep making people uncomfortable, and, you know, keep educating people, but it's so much work, it's so much to do. I think that, you know, it's a work that you know, it takes a lot, because it's sad that people still have to hide because of fear. People hide who they are. People, you know, have to stand back a little bit and maybe not being themselves. So I think that yeah, I think it's a thing that definitely we need more respect inside of our Latinx community. It's education. It's an educational thing, but respect. It's not about understanding others. It's about respecting them. It doesn't matter if you don't understand them, just respect them for who they are.
It seems like such a simple concept, you know. You don't have to understand why I go by they and them, but you have to respect it, because it's how I choose to identify. And it's who I am. And when you call me they and them, you're validating my identity, and you're showing that you respect who I am, you know. And I think you know, it was so perfect, you know, just respect. I mean, hi, Stephanie.
I think one of the steps that I'd like to see more, it's not necessarily something that our industry should do. I think it's what every human being should do. When you enter a room where you work, or if you're with friends during a party or something, just look around and look at the kind of people that are surrounded, like that are around you. Like, are they all look similar? Like, ask yourself that question. If you only see a certain type of people, have you created yourself an environment where people that would be different from you would feel comfortable being in? You know, before trying to be like the ally and collect those, you know, tap on the shoulder, like you've done a good job, before doing even that, like, just look around you, look at your 5 best friends, and if they kind of all look similar, maybe there's a few things that you have to, you know, change and look deep to understand why someone that is different, from a different ethnicity or from a different sexuality than yours, don't feel comfortable enough to be in your circle. Myself included. Like, I looked at my friends and I was like, I don't know a lot of Indian people. I don't know a lot of, I don't know, Moroccan people. And I'm like, I have my own biases that I need to work on. And it's not because I'm a person of color that I don't have bias. People have to understand that, yes, reprogramming yourself, you're going to fail. Like, a lot of time you're going to fail, but you have to accept to fail. And it's actually Martha Johnson that says, fail fast, fail forward, fail fruitfully. And this is exactly that. You have to accept that looking in the mirror is going to be gross. Looking in the mirror is not going to be cool. But if you don't do it, nothing's gonna change. So just it's a failure, you know.
Yeah. Well said, ladies. I mean, seriously, we have to, close up this conversation, which I think all of us could talk for quite some time, on so many things. But I think, to what you all said, Malayka, education, what you can do, keep educating, keep learning, Nicole, respect, just respect. That would, I always say consideration in this world would go such a long way. It would just make the world such a better place if you could consider the other person and walk in their shoes, and it goes to you, like Stephanie, looking around the people that you surround yourself with. Do they all look the same? How can you grow and how can you change when there's no different perspectives that you're surrounding yourself with? Know when to challenge that status quo of that group of people you're hanging out with. If they all look the same, they're all, ethnically the same, racially, they're all the same, they're all, gender-wise the same. How are you growing? How are you challenging yourself to, make these questions to create these questions and move things forward? And I think, that's really I want to thank you all, Malayka and Nicole and Stephanie, for being with me this morning or this afternoon for Paris and the UK. But I want to thank you for agreeing to be part of this conversation, and there's many more to come, and there's many more walls to break down and to keep down. This is not a passing trend. This isn't something that is just for the moment. Like this is where our industry is moving. Whether some like it or not, these are the changes that are being made, and the changes that will continue to be made by all of us collectively coming together and standing together in solidarity. And I think that's I think that you can rebuild the system from the inside out. I think we need the people on the outside fighting it from the outside in, but we need people like us to fight from within and rebuild it from within, because that coming from outside can only do so much. We need to dismantle, unfortunately, with the master's tools. And I'd rather dismantle the system with the master's tools and their own tools that they created it and be like, yeah, we're taking this back and we're going to use it to recreate something that's more inclusive than the other way around. So, thank you very much. I do appreciate your time, and I do, look forward to meeting, to giving you a hug, and meeting you in person, Malayka. Nicole, I'm going to give you a hug soon enough in Puerto Rico, and Stephanie, I know I'm going to see you soon, right? I've seen you more virtually during the pandemic than I think I ever did before. So I'm very excited to, Malayka, go to the UK soon when your countries let Americans back in. We will happily go. And
so one thing for America, you don't need guns, you need some fucking hand sanitizer. Right, anyway, number one.
And mask.
And a mask, exactly, number one.
And also vote. Not
for Trump, not for Trump. I don't know how we managed to avoid this issue of Trump, but please, America, no more Trump. What's wrong with you? Okay, number one, and before we go, I want to say one thing as well. So this is it. We've laid out the tools now going forward, right? Education, respect, awareness. This is what we need going forward. And Chris, let me know when you're coming to London, babe. I will book days off. Mwah.
Thank you. Anything before we go, Nicole? Would you like to say anything?
I would love to say something. Yes. I want everybody to remember that the only constant is change. We're here to stay and slay. So celebrating individuality helps uniting, because learning what is different from each other helps us share what brings us together.
Nice.
Stephanie, you
good? Yes, arrest Breonna Taylor's murder. One. Then then I would just say that, like, don't wait for someone else to validate your existence. You're beautiful the way you are. You're perfect the way you are, honestly.
And I think she said everything we need to. And on that note, thank you very much for joining us today. And we wish you all well and be safe. Wear a mask. Thank you.
Yes.